So, you're looking to unlock more tomes in Megabonk, but are having trouble unlocking the Chaos Tome. If that's you, then don't worry, we've got you covered. Here are some of our tips to help you unlock the Chaos Tome. Strap in, it's kind of a difficult one. Alright, first things first, there's gonna be some subjective takes in this video for what constitutes as best practice. Unlocking the Chaos Tome isn't easy, and it requires you to survive deep into a Tier 3 stage. So if you feel like you might have a better strategy, then please, feel free to drop it down in the comments. Megabonk is after all a relatively new game, and we're all discovering S-tier metas together. Right, now that that's out of the way, let's take a look at what you'll need to do to unlock the Chaos Tome. To unlock the tome, you'll need to charge all the charge shrines on all stages on a Tier 3 run without leaving the charge zone once you activate a shrine. Meaning, if you leave the colorful circle when charging a shrine, even if just for a second, the attempt is over and you'll need to restart. To do this, you'll essentially need to be playing the game as if you're planning to complete a Tier 3 run. Before we get into direct strategies, however, let's review a couple of tips for weapons and items that'll help you on your run. Let's start with items. To make it far, you're gonna want to look out for a few key items to get you powerful as soon as possible. Items like the red credit card and the green credit card are great for boosting both your damage and your luck stats respectively while passively opening chests. Likewise, boosting your attack speed with the battery is huge for getting rid of swarms, as well as keeping an eye out for the beefy ring to boost your damage by a significant amount. For a more comprehensive list of useful items, hop on over to our Survivor's Tips video for more of a breakdown. But perhaps the most important item you'll need to know about isn't one you'll actually take, it's actually one you'll want to avoid, and that's the beacon. While having a charged shrine turn into a healing zone sounds like a good idea, the beacon will also add 2 extra charge shrines for you to find on subsequent stages. Getting knocked out of a charge area can happen pretty easily on these runs, and the less shrines you have to do on a run, the better. We recommend you saving a banish to get rid of the item just in case you find one of these from a chest. Okay, let's talk weapons and characters. For characters, while you're of course welcome to pick any that you're comfortable and confident in making a strong build with, there are a couple we'd recommend to make unlocking the tome a little easier. First is Ninja. This is the character I used to unlock the tome after a recommendation from another Megabonk content creator, Dex. Shout out to them. The reasoning behind Ninja is that he has a strong starting weapon in the katana, but also has high base mobility to get around the map. But even better is his passive, with Ninja gaining a higher chance to evade with every level. This is great for if a swarm starts getting too close while inside the charge zone. While I don't believe the evade will nullify an AoE attack, it will at the very least grant you an extra second if you're surrounded by enemies. Another solid choice for character is Mega Chad. If you can get an additional weapon with him early that also benefits from a size increase, Mega Chad's base weapon of Aura will do a great job of keeping enemies at bay while you're inside the charge shrine. I'd recommend staying away from characters that have an excess amount of mobility, such as Monk or Calcium, as it can be easy to either overshoot or climb out of the charge shrine with both of these characters. For weapons, it's a good idea to choose weapons that will synergize with your tomes. More on that in just a second. But since we're additionally aiming to stay inside charge shrines, it's also a good idea to target 1 or 2 defensive weapons to keep enemies at bay and you inside the area. For my Chaos Tome run, I use Ninja with his starter katana paired with the Dexecutioner, as these benefited from size increases as well as higher attack speeds. As for my defensive weapons, I went with Aura and
Aegis
to both damage enemies as far away from me as possible and have shields on me in case any enemies broke through while still inside the charge shrine. If you're gonna opt for weapons that rely on attack speed and projectile count, then you're better off choosing either the revolver, the black hole, the lightning staff, and maybe the dice. Right, let's think about tomes. I do think the meta of selecting both the XP tome and the luck tome still applies while trying to unlock the Chaos Tome. The reasoning is that you're essentially planning as if you want to beat stage 3, And the best way to do that is to maximize both the amount of upgrades you get, as well as the quality of them. And the best way to do that is, of course, to increase the amount of XP and luck stats that you get. I do think that running the Cursed Tome here could be a bit risky, as the amount of enemies that start spawning could be a problem if you're trying to stay inside charge shrines. With that in mind though, if you're still wanting to maximize the amount of return you get for killing enemies, you can still look for boss shrines and greed shrines to increase the difficulty at a controllable level. As for the rest of your tome slots, I ran my attempt with the Damage Tome and the Size Tome. Since I wasn't having luck finding a red credit card early, I chose the Damage Tome to start leveling up the amount of damage output to keep enemies away as early as possible, while hunting down those charge shrines. And leveraging the Size Tome paired nicely with my Katana, Executioner, and Aura. And as previously mentioned, depending on the weapons you're more comfortable with, you may want to think about running the Cooldown Tome or the Quantity Tome to increase both the frequency and the amount of damage you deal with every attack. Okay, finally, let's talk strategies. The most important note we can give you is to keep track of every shrine you hit per stage. What I mean by this is, write down every time you hit a shrine. For context, there are 15 shrines on every stage, and it can be easy to lose track of how many you've done when out on a run. I kept my phone unlocked and on my desk with the Notes app open with a running checklist. And every time I charged a shrine, I'd check off that shrine before selecting my reward. Do whatever works for you here, but just make sure you're keeping track in some kind of form. The next tip we can give you is to make sure to watch how you enter a charge zone. Characters with high mobility can bounce off relatively easy, and you don't want to ruin a good run by being impatient. Walk into the charge area and stay as close to the center as much as you can. Additionally, if you find yourself with additional jumps, make sure there isn't a charge shrine above you when platforming up the environment. The last thing you want to do is to lose out on a run by accidentally entering the radius of a charge zone simply to fall right back down outside of it. Take the time and make your way around ramps in the level. Finally, be strategic with the shrine rewards you select. For example, if you don't have the XP Tome equipped but have a couple attack speed boosts, consider boosting an XP stat if you get it as one of the rewards. Or if you aren't playing as Ninja, consider picking up an evasion stat boost. Or if you have a character like Clank, perhaps you'd want to keep an eye out for projectile speed. In other words, you want to keep your bases covered for maximizing damage to avoid getting pushed out of the charge area. To that end, be on the lookout for armor stats and knockback increases to make sure no enemies are coming near you. And speaking of enemies coming near you, it's important to keep track of the time. Remember that every 2 minutes, you'll have either a swarm or a boss spawn into the stage. It's important to focus on these before attempting to charge the next shrine. The last thing you want to do is try and rush and lose out for being impatient. See the pattern? Lastly, keep an eye out for these exploding guys. If you see these near you, kill them ASAP, as these have the potential to end your run by booting you out of the charge area. Seriously, focus on them before attempting to charge another shrine. With any luck, you'll be clearing the last shrine before you know it. Unlocking the Chaos Tome and equipping it on a run will give you one additional random stat boost. If you're familiar with the Dice character, then this tome is similar to his passive. And those are our tips for unlocking the Chaos Tome in Megabonk. If you have any suggestions for how you unlock the tome, then feel free to drop them down below in the comments. And let us know if you want to see more Megabonk videos like this one. Until then, good luck, and we'll see you in the next one.